Welcome to Meany Hall for the Performing Arts on the campus of the University of Washington and the 2000 University of Washington Freshman Convocation. The Convocation is a celebration in honor of freshmen and their families, welcoming them to the campus community. This marks the 17th such ceremony since the tradition was revived in 1984. It is not generally known that the university held convocations from the 1920s through the 1950s. Records in the university archives do not indicate when or why the earlier convocations were discontinued, but until its revival in 1984, it was at least 20 years since one had been held. Speakers for today's event include University Marshal and Associate Professor of Philosophy Ronald M. Moore, President Richard L. McCormick, Provost Lee L. Huntsman, the President of the Associated Students of the University, Jasmine J. Weaver, and Mary Gates Scholar, Leadership Grant recipient, Matthew R. Alexander. The keynote speaker is Dr. Anna Marie Cassé, Professor of Psychology and American Ethnic Studies and Director of the University Honors Program. The title of her convocation address is Beyond the Best and the Brightest. Again, welcome to the 2000 University of Washington Freshman Convocation.
The 2000 University of Washington Freshman Convocation will be opened with the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner by Mr. Lincoln Johnson, accompanied by the University Wind Ensemble, conducted by Mr. Christopher Cook of the School of Music. The audience will please rise and is invited to join with Mr. Johnson in the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Welcome to Meany Hall for the Performing Arts and the University of Washington Freshman Convocation. I'm Ronald Moore, the University Marshal. In my regular job, I teach in our philosophy department. But as University Marshal, I have two very important ritual responsibilities at convocation and commencement ceremonies. First, I lead the academic procession and make sure the president doesn't get lost. And second, as you will no doubt have noticed, I carry the mace. The mace is an ancient symbol of authority that reminds us that universities are custodians both of enduring traditions of learning and of the power they bestow on those who come to learn. It is also a reminder that the learning process has not always been comfortable and easy. In the early universities in Europe, students entered into such vigorous debates with their instructors that their raucous discussions often spilled out of the classrooms and into nearby taverns and coffee shops, and that is why there had to be a mace. The marshal was called upon to use it to clobber parties who got out of hand. The University of Washington mace itself is actually quite a handsome object. It's embellished with finely wrought metal sculptures of the university seal and Denny Hall, and topped by a graceful rendition of Drumheller Fountain. I truly wouldn't want to damage it by bashing an unruly student. And I'm pleased to announce, by the way, that President McCormick has sided with tradition and against the advice of campus technologists and insurance experts in decreeing that the Marshal will continue to carry this antique club rather than a can of mace. By the way, we haven't had this occurrence at our university commencement ceremonies, but a number of years ago at Yale, the university marshal actually did have to use the mace when a unruly student grabbed the microphone to make a political speech, and so the marshal actually hit him with a mace. It almost happened here when a student did push me aside at commencement to grab the microphone several years ago, and I thought we were going to have a repeat, but he said, "Cindy, will you marry me?" And she shouted yes, and everyone applauded. There is a serious point, actually, behind my remarks on the mace as an historical object. I want to draw your attention to the fact that in entering this university, you are at the same time entering a continuous stream of accumulated learning that makes, excuse me. The wonderful thing that you will be discovering here is that whereas up to now you've looked at this historical flow of ideas from the shore, as it were, you will now be immersed in it. Up to now you've read about science and art and history and mathematics and so on. Now you will become scientists and artists and historians and mathematicians. And the great thinkers of the past will no longer be people you admire from afar. They will become your intimates and your partners. We believe that you will find this companionship of old and new exciting and stimulating. As T.S. Eliot put it, every moment is a new and shocking valuation of all we have been. A convocation is, as those of you who recall your high school Latin may remember, a calling together. Today we call together our incoming freshmen and their families so that we may celebrate with you the beginning of university education and welcome you all to membership in this campus community. The 15th such ceremony since the tradition was revived in 1984 after a 20-year hiatus. By calling all of us, students, faculty, family, and friends together in this place, we're underscoring a point of cooperation and mutual commitment. You are now members of the University of Washington family. Like families everywhere, we will now be sharing our concerns, our affections, our aspirations, and our commitment to creating a better future. We sincerely hope that these newly forged family connections will be lifelong bonds of allegiance, and that you will always feel as proud and happy about us as we feel about this outstanding incoming class. I now want to introduce the man who will preside over our ceremony today, the President of the University of Washington, Dr. Richard L. McCormick.
Thank you, Professor Moore. First, let me express a warm welcome to the students, parents, grandparents, friends, and families of the entering class of 2000 at the University of Washington. We are really glad you're here. Today, the first-year students will begin a remarkable journey, a journey that we hope will change your lives and prepare you for all that follows. Each of you has been selected from among many more qualified applicants than could possibly have been admitted to the University of Washington. So you are extremely well prepared for the university, and we are very proud to have you here. The freshman class of 2000 is the largest in the history of the University of Washington. There are over 4,900 of you, half women, half men, 83% from the state of Washington, and the rest from around the nation and around the world. During the next 4 years, you'll learn and grow together. You'll learn from each other as well as from the faculty, and when you graduate from the UW, you'll have an outstanding education and you'll have friends for a lifetime. We mark today with a formal ceremony because besides the beginning of a personal journey, you are also entering into an institution that is very old, very distinguished, and of which we and you are very proud. Let me say a few words about the institution you are joining today. The origins of the University of Washington date to 1861, well before Washington was a state and before there were even very many students capable of benefiting from a college education. Our university's age and tradition are symbolized today by the academic regalia worn by those of us on the platform. In establishing the UW so long ago, our founders here in Seattle were carrying forward a tradition dating back to the 17th century in America and to the 12th century in Europe. The founders knew that a university was a place of learning, where the old teach the young, and the young repay the debt by transcending the inherited wisdom and teaching another group of young ones. This is an ideal, of course, but it is an ideal that is essential to human progress and is more real within a university like ours than anywhere else. In time, this university, like others, assumed new responsibilities besides learning, including research, that is, discovering new knowledge, and service, that is, applying that knowledge beyond the campus to the world at large. I hope that besides your learning, you will also participate in the university's missions of research and service. The 4 years that lie ahead of you are about much more than getting trained for a job. In today's fast-paced world, you'll probably need to get trained again and again. The 4 years that lie ahead are about preparing you for the rest of your lives, for citizenship and community membership, and making families and advancing our civilization. You won't learn to be good at those things if you just concentrate on career preparation. And this brings me back to you and your entrance into the ranks of men and women across the decades and across 2 centuries who have received their educations here at the University of Washington. You are not yet the most learned members of our community. That may come in time. But you have the freshest eyes and the keenest enthusiasm. Your job, one among many, is to use those fresh eyes to spot ways Washington can live out our ideals more fully and to tell us so. In this sense, to say that we are pleased to welcome you to the freshman class of 2000 and the graduating class of 2004 is completely true, but is also a vast understatement. Your arrival here today marks the annual renewal of our university's commitment to the ideal I cited before, and to learning and research and service in a proud tradition that goes back in time and looks forward in time. Without that renewal, born here today by you, we would die as an institution and as a civilization. We don't intend to let that happen, and neither do you. So it is with more than the usual amount of emotion and pride that I say again to each of you, welcome to the University of Washington. I now have the honor of introducing those who share the platform with me this afternoon. First, the Regents of the University of Washington. The Regents are our governing board, appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate. And I will introduce the Regents. They will stand up as their names are called, and we'll recognize them all together. First, the President of the Board of Regents, Regent Constance L. Proctor, Regent John W. Amaya, Regent Maury J. Clack, Regent Daniel J. Evans, Regent William H. Gates, Regent Gerald Grinstein, Regent Cindy Zender, the Regents of the University of Washington. I'm joined as well by a number of my fellow administrators, including the provost and the vice presidents. Let me introduce them as a group and ask you to join me in recognizing them. First, our Chief Academic Officer, Provost Lee L. Huntsman. Myron Appilato, Vice President for Minority Affairs. Jack Farris, Vice President for University Relations. Lynn Hogan, Interim Vice President for Development. Ernest Morris, Vice President for Student Affairs. Deborah Friedman, Associate Provost for Academic Planning. And Carol Nichols, Executive Associate to the President. The deans are the academic leaders of the schools and colleges of the University of Washington. We have most of the deans with us here today, and I want to introduce them to you at this time. First, Divisional Dean Susan E. Jeffords of the College of Arts and Sciences. Dean Patricia Wasley of the College of Education. Dean Sidney D. Nelson of the School of Pharmacy. Dean Roland L. Hjorth of the School of Law. Dean Denise D. Denton of the College of Engineering. Dean Christina A. Vogt of the College of Forest Resources. Dean Yash P. Gupta of the School of Business Administration. Dean Nancy S. F. Woods of the School of Nursing. Associate Dean Daniel Hunt, School of Medicine. Dean Patricia W. Wall, School of Public Health and Community Medicine. Dean Arthur Noel, College of Ocean and Fishery Sciences. Chancellor and Dean Warren W. Buck, University of Washington Bothell Campus. Dean Frederick L. Campbell, Undergraduate Education and Vice Provost. Betty G. Bankston, Director of University Libraries, the Deans of the University of Washington. I want to recognize several others who share the platform with us. The Convocation keynote speaker, from whom you will hear shortly, is Professor Anna Marie Kause. Representing student government, Jasmine J. Weaver, President of the ASUW, and Gorkum Kuderdem, President of the GPSS. You'll hear from Jasmine in a few minutes. Representing our outstanding student body, a Mary Gates Scholar Leadership Grant recipient, Matthew. And representing our outstanding faculty, 3 winners of our annual Distinguished Teaching Awards, Gerald J. Baldesty, Professor of Communication, Gozong Chow, Professor of Material Science and Engineering, and Robin Wright, Professor of Zoology. I have the pleasure of recognizing 2 more outstanding students, Jamie Lust, freshman medalist, and Christopher Twigg, sophomore medalist, the best students in their classes. The marshals for this ceremony are Professor Ronald M. Moore, whom you have already met, Norman G. Arkins, Sandra E. Madrid, Stephen G. Olswang, Emil Petrie, Michael R. Peterson, Renee Singleton, Piri Hart, Millie Russell, and Maggie Alona, the marshals for today. Finally, let me express recognition to our sign language interpreters, Janelle Dover and Laurie Reese Reinhardt. Thank you. The University of Washington has a long and rich tradition of outstanding student leaders. The current president of the Associated Students of the University of Washington, or the ASUW as we call it, is no exception. Indeed, she extends that tradition very nicely. A native of Seattle, she is a senior in the honors program with a double major in philosophy and community and environmental planning. She is, as you might expect, an outstanding student. So it is with great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, that I introduce the president of the Associated Students of the University of Washington, Jasmine J. Weaver.
Thank you, President McCormick. It is a great pleasure to welcome all of you into the University of Washington community. I'm here today to talk to you about the most important thing you can learn at the UW: how to become an active and informed citizen in a democratic society. In other words, how to change the world. Becoming an active citizen is not required for graduation. In fact, it is possible to spend your entire time here and never learn how to solve the problems in your community. But you must not let that happen. Our world faces so many challenges today, from AIDS to racism to pollution and overpopulation, that we cannot afford to each focus only on our own problems and concerns. We must look beyond our own problems and be willing, to solve problems larger than our own. Your time at the UW is where you must start learning how to do this. Pick an issue and get involved. Let me give you 2 examples of things the ASUW is working on that we would love your help with. First, and you parents will want to listen closely to this part, get involved and help us keep our tuition affordable. 2 years ago, the University of Washington administration wanted to raise our tuition by over 67%. But thanks to the hard work of countless students, we got only a 7% increase. This year, the legislature will again be setting our tuition, and I hope that you will take up where your predecessors left off and help the ASUW fight to keep our tuition affordable. Parents and students must work together so that we can keep the UW a truly public university that all Washington families can afford. Secondly, look around you. Neither this stage, nor this audience, nor this university well represents the diversity of the state of Washington. Most of us here today attended well-funded schools in prosperous neighborhoods and always knew that we would attend college. Meanwhile, throughout our state, thousands of students struggle to succeed in poorly funded schools and never know that college is an option. This may not seem like a pressing issue to you now, but how will you learn to function in a diverse society? And how will our country also ever become more unified if great universities like the University of Washington only educate certain segments of our population? Help us change this. Get involved and demand fair admissions requirements, a more diverse curriculum, a more diverse faculty and staff, and more money devoted to recruiting underrepresented minorities. These are only 2 examples of the many different causes you can join during your time at the UW. Becoming an active citizen is more than just joining causes, though. It is also about your academic skills and your ability to get along with others. These will be 2 other vital parts of your education at the UW. Academically, no matter what you study, become a better writer, speaker, and thinker. Learn to question your own opinions and defend your beliefs with facts and well-reasoned arguments. As for learning to get along with others, being at the UW makes this easy. I guarantee that among the 35,000 students here, you will find many who share your interests, values, and beliefs. You will also, of course, find many who disagree with you. Learning to get along with both types of people will benefit you immensely. In closing, many people say that the college years are the best 4 years of your life, and they may be right. But more importantly, college is where you learn how to make the rest of your life the best it can be. So get started right now. As you leave this hall, you will find students who can help you register to vote and who can help you sign you up for the ASUW to advocate for students on campus and in the state legislature. Throughout this week in Red Square, you'll be able to find information about countless student organizations and be able to join them. Starting today, get involved and make your mark on the University of Washington. There is no question that the UW will help you improve yourself. The only question is whether you will help improve the UW, and I hope that you will. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you, Jasmine. Matthew Alexander was born and raised in Wenatchee, Washington, and entered the University of Washington in 1996. Next spring, he will graduate with a bachelor's degree in psychology and a minor in public health and community medicine. As an undergraduate, Matthew became president and founder of the Student Global Health Coalition, an organization that seeks to empower students with a global conscience through service and education. Since its inception, the coalition has developed into an international network of students working toward health care and human rights for underserved populations throughout the world. As a result of Matthew's work with the Student Global Health Coalition, he received the Mary Gates Student Leadership Grant last winter. Matthew was also awarded the Edward E. Carlson Student Leadership Award last year. After graduating from the UW, Matthew plans to pursue a medical doctorate and master's in public health while continuing to work in the field of international health and development. Please welcome Matthew R. Alexander.
Thank you, President McCormick. Welcome. Welcome to the University of Washington, freshman class of 2000. I have one question for you. Why are you here? I ask you this because you'll probably ask yourself this same question many times over the next 4 years. I know I have. Upon entering the university, I did not really know why I was here. I guess college just seemed like the next logical step for me. Well, within the first week, this uncertainty soon faded, and I decided that my mission was to take advantage of all social opportunities. I was here to meet all 35,000 students and to attend all functions, parties, and gatherings as possible. Well, I'm sorry to inform you that although being social is an important part of the college life here, it is not our primary purpose. So I continued to search for an answer. For the past 4 years, I've been searching for a reason why I'm here, and I think that I can finally tell you I have an answer. Contrary to what many may tell you, you're not here for the grades or the degree. These are merely numbers and pieces of paper. I believe the education and experiences you will obtain here at the University of Washington will give you 3 important tools for life: power, freedom, and responsibility. Allow me to elaborate. The University of Washington will give you power to influence world leaders as students and eventually become the world leaders yourselves. And I'm not talking about merely the political leaders. I'm talking about the musicians, the artists, the teachers, and the doctors. You may not realize this as an incoming class of around 5,000, but you represent a minuscule percentage of the population in the world. If you think about it, you are part of the most powerful and wealthy nation in the world, and within that nation, you are part of the largest and most eminent, one of the largest and most eminent universities. It is undeniable that you will leave here with power. The University of Washington will give you freedom. In the next few years, you will have the opportunity to choose whichever direction you want to go in life. You will be able to expand on ideas and theories of your own and question the thinking of the past. This freedom may seem automatic for some of you, but I have seen how a lack of education can put chains on a person. I spent 3 months this summer volunteering with indigenous farm workers in rural areas of Central America. The majority of the people that I worked with had been working in fields with machetes since they were 6 years old. They were not afforded the luxury of going to school because if they went to school, that means that that day their family would not eat. You have more freedom than you realize. The University of Washington will give you responsibility, and trust me, when I was a freshman, responsibility was probably my least favorite concept. But you will find that the power and freedom that you will be granted here comes with a price. First, a responsibility to our families who are here with us this afternoon, many of whom have made great sacrifices for us to be here. But perhaps even more important is our social responsibility to the world. As the voice of our generation, we must speak and act for those of us that do not have a chance to be heard. We must realize that no matter how much we learn here, we still have a lot to learn, and we don't have all the solutions. We must realize that we have much to learn from our brothers and sisters across the globe. At times, the challenges we face may seem overwhelming. For example, 1/3 of the population is consuming 2/3 of the world's resources. Obviously, the ideas and actions of the past have not found all the solutions. For this reason, we must unite now and revolutionize the way we treat each other. We must continue to discover our similarities, yet embrace our diversity. In closing, I would like to say on behalf of the upperclassmen, thank you for coming to the University of Washington. You are the new life here. The professors, administration, and other upperclassmen will look to you for energy and inspiration. Please use the university to discover your passion, to experience each other, and to represent all those that do not have this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. The provost is the chief academic and budget officer of the University of Washington. He or she is always a very distinguished member of the faculty. Our current provost is no exception, an outstanding bioengineer. Please welcome Provost Lee Huntsman.
It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this afternoon, Professor Ana Maria Case. She was born in Cuba, grew up in Florida, and when she was at that stage of life that many of you are today, entering college, she did so at the University of Miami, and she blitzed the place. She graduated summa cum laude with a double major in English and psychology, promptly went up the East Coast to Yale, that raucous university we heard about a few minutes ago, got 2 master's degrees and a PhD. Thereafter, we recruited her to the faculty of the University of Washington. Since coming here, she's risen through the professorial ranks. She's now a full professor of both psychology and American ethnic studies. She is a true triple threat professor. She's been an outstanding academic leader, helping to design, create, and nurture numerous programs. She was department chairman of American Ethnic Studies, and this year, she has become the director of the University Honors Program. She's a terrific researcher. She's been very interested in youth, especially youth at risk, what happens to them, what forces act upon them. She's been very interested in the social environment and its effect on families. Her research in these areas has been widely recognized, continuously supported. She's received numerous grants and awards, and in fact has been accorded one of the highest honors of her profession. She's a fellow of the American Psychological Society. At her core, though, Ana Maria is a teacher. She will tell you that. She evidences it in all that she does. She's fantastic in the classroom. She works one-on-one with students in many, many arenas. She was, last year, in 1999, accorded one of the highest compliments the University of Washington bestows on faculty, the university's Distinguished Teaching Award. In addition to that, though, she's famous for gathering students of all ages around her in her research, in her involvement with the community, and for stretching them and mentoring them. She is, as I say, a triple threat professor. She's also a wise and wonderful person, and we're thrilled to have her here this afternoon. She's chosen to speak to us about Beyond the Best and the Brightest. Please welcome Professor Ana Maria Case.
Boy, I feel like I should quit while I'm ahead. Good morning, and welcome to the entering class of 2000. It's both an honor and a pleasure to be part of your celebration. Although most of your achievements are probably ahead of you, I could spend my entire 15 minutes talking about what you have already accomplished. You are here because you've already proven that you're the best and the brightest, and you have already distinguished yourselves. Still, despite all your hard work and smarts, you didn't get here alone. And I want to take a minute to address your supporters in the audience, especially your parents. We would not have such an outstanding entering class without you. I do research with homeless and street youth, and there's nothing like spending even just a little bit of time with young people trying to make it totally on their own to know how important parents are. When things go wrong in a kid's life, school performance is one of the first things that takes a hit. Troubled youth seldom have the energy, focus, and curiosity to succeed in intellectually challenging work. So the fact that your kids are here is a testament that you've done something right. A youth transition into college is a pretty clear signal, though, that it's time for parents to give their kids a wider berth. But don't for a minute think this means they no longer need you. Your support and encouragement will be an important part of your son or daughter's success here. This may not always be easy. I went through at least 4 different majors in college, none of them quite what my parents would have wanted. But even after it was clear that I was going to be a clinical psychologist, my mother tried hard to be upbeat, although she couldn't help but ask, "Why do you want to spend the rest of your life dealing with crazy people?" It took me a little bit more work experience, especially in administration, to finally come up with a good answer. We all work with crazy people. A clinical psychologist just gets to know it ahead of time. On a more serious note, though, I suspect that I wouldn't have been happy working full-time as a clinician in private practice. But combining my degree with teaching and research in an academic setting like this has been just the right thing for me. I can't imagine doing anything else that would bring me as much pleasure and fulfillment. And while she wasn't so sure about my chosen course of study at the outset, my mother ended up being proud of me to the point of embarrassment. I was actually hoping she'd be here today with all the other proud parents in the audience, but she died about a month ago. And boy, do I wish she were around to embarrass me just one more time. So my one bit of advice to you parents is that even if you're not quite sure why your son or daughter is studying this instead of that, sprinkle liberal doses of patience and tolerance in with the encouragement and support. If they find what makes them happy, the pleasure will come back around to you. Today is really about the entering class of 2000, so I'll direct the rest of my comments to them. I must admit, I'm more than a little envious of you. You are the first class of this new century, and what an amazing time to be young and talented amongst the best and brightest. More than at any other time in our history, the future belongs to those with a talent, work ethic, and vision to seize it and shape it. The college years, which for most of you take place in the teens and 20s, used to be a time when life was in a holding pattern. Young people were expected to pay their dues before they could get a chance, and true political or economic clout was an old and white man's province. Access to capital crossed through many layers and was simply out of reach to women, people of color, or the young. We still have a ways to go before sex and color are no longer barriers, but age is certainly less and less of one. Our country is not only flush with 20 and 30-something CEOs and millionaires, but also with young movie makers, artists, authors, and scientists. When I was young, those with talent tried to come across as older, so they would be taken more seriously. But in today's world, youth is a plus, not a minus, and it's up to you to make sure it's not only plastic surgeons that capitalize on this. So what advice can I give you? Well, at the risk of being simplistic and all too obvious, I'm going to simply suggest that you keep 2 imperatives in mind over the next few years. Be happy and get a good education. Not necessarily in that order. Let me say just a little bit more about each, and I'll start with education. The importance of education is not only something I've come to appreciate since becoming more involved with undergraduate education here at the U, it's a value that permeated every corner of my home growing up. Both my parents believed there was nothing nobler than being an educator and nothing more valuable than a good education. As Provost Huntsman mentioned, my family came to the U.S. after being forced out of their homeland by the Cuban Revolution when I was 3. And in this country, my parents' educations didn't translate into good or high-paying jobs. In fact, although my father had a PhD and had served as Cuba's Minister of Education, neither one of my parents made much more than minimum wage. Through most of my elementary school years, my father worked in a shoe factory. Although he performed his job with dignity, and he taught me never to be ashamed of honest work, it was just a job. Education was his life. He used his evening and weekend hours to found an organization to educate the incoming waves of immigrants from Cuba, about our country's artistic and cultural achievements. And even after he came to realize, somewhat reluctantly, that our futures would be here in the United States, he believed that knowledge of our people and our history would instill in us the pride and self-confidence to succeed, regardless of the barriers that came from limited economic means. And he was right. So given my background, I've been a very interested spectator as the state's leaders have engaged in some at times heated debates about what higher education should look like in the future. These lead me to the struggles of one of my own personal heroes, W.E.B. Du Bois. Du Bois was entering college at the turn of the last century, amongst the first black undergraduates at Harvard. He has lots of accomplishments to his credit, like founding the Niagara Group, which was a predecessor to the NAACP. But I've been perhaps most taken by his debates with Booker T. Washington about the natures and goals of higher education. Du Bois came up in post-Reconstruction period when Jim Crow laws made separate and unequal not only practice in this country, but the law. And in this context, Booker T. Washington, who was viewed as the spokesman for the black community, advocated a program of technical training for African Americans so that they would possess the skills to be self-supporting and useful in the day's economy. But Du Bois, still in his 20s at the time, was adamant in his opposition to narrow career training as the only or the best way for African Americans to build a future. While he supported the program of technical training advocated by Washington and believed it was good and right for many youths. After all, it's only someone who's never known want that would look down on the notion of being able to earn a living. But he just had the radical notion that it was just as important to invest in a deeper and broader education for those he called the talented 10th. He believed that the type of education that would best prepare these talented 10th, these best and the brightest like yourselves, for an unpredictable and ever-changing future was an education that would stretch their minds and sensibilities. At Hampton University in 1906, arguing for an education that would go beyond agricultural training, Du Bois told the faculty, "Impress it upon your pupils that potatoes and cows are only valuable because of the heaped up sacrifice, the midnight musing, the morning dreams of men who did not have potatoes enough to keep them alive. Send these talented boys to college. Make them men of power, of thought, of trained and cultivated taste. Impress them with the fact that necessary as it is to earn a living, it is more necessary and important to earn a life." And so that's the first goal I urge you to take on, that of gaining an education that is both deep and broad, one that will sustain you regardless of how you earn your daily bread. I've heard it said that at convocations like this one, at some other colleges across the state, which shall remain nameless, freshmen have been told they're not like the UW, that they care about teaching, not research and scholarship. While I don't believe that a UW-style education is right for everyone, I can assure you that we care about teaching too. It's just that we don't see scholarship and research as its enemy. And if we do care about something more than teaching, it's education. A relationship between education and teaching surely exists, but it's not a one-to-one correspondence. You see, teaching, especially as it's been defined too often by bureaucrats and evaluators, is something that happens inside a walled-in classroom when an instructor stands in front of a group of students and expostulates, like I'm doing right now. Teaching, they too often believe, is something that can be measured by credit hours and its quality defined by students' performance on standardized tests measuring uniform learning outcomes. Moreover, it's assumed that teaching is something that an instructor or faculty member does, quite apart from what students do on their own or with others. Education, on the other hand, is something that cannot be confined within a classroom, a building, or on a campus. It's something that happens at the interface of teachers and students. And when education is taking place, it's not always the faculty who serve as teachers. Education is something that on this campus happens when faculty and students engage in research and scholarship together. It is something that I believe happens most gloriously, especially for the best and the brightest, in a university like this, where educational opportunities don't follow a time clock and cannot be readily quantified. You see, that tell you that they're different than the UW are right. They are different. They don't have a faculty with anywhere near the number of Nobel Prize winners, MacArthur, Guggenheim, Fulbright, and Rockefeller Fellows, National Medal of Science winners, teachers and scholars honored by the National Academy of Engineering, the National Institute of Medicine, and the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. They are different from the UW. They're not part of a community that consistently pulls in more research dollars than any other public university, not just in the state or region, but in the country. For the last decade, the UW has been among the top 5 universities, public or private, in attaining federal research funds. And we get these funds through a highly competitive process because it's been determined that the scholarship and research that takes place here is worth this country's investment because of its national and global significance. And those of you with the time, energy, and inclination will have opportunities to participate in this work, opportunities I urge you to take advantage of. From the moment you set foot on the UW campus, you will be surrounded by education taking place in classrooms, in laboratories, in study groups, during faculty office hours, during conversations in the hall, in cafeterias, yes, and even on athletic fields and at parties. At the University of Washington, there are more educational opportunities available to you in a given day, week, or month than you can possibly take advantage of, even if you stay awake 24 hours a day. Virtually every afternoon and evening, we have world leaders from government, industry, the sciences and arts, the humanities, speaking someplace on campus. But education is something that we can't give you. It's something you have to earn for yourself. It's not something you can get by waiting for some supposedly excellent teacher to pour it into your head. I wish we could give it to you that way. Instead, though, it's something you must pursue with discipline, passion, energy, and an open mind. So that's the first goal I urge you to take on, that of becoming educated. I can assure you the opportunities are here, and you will be limited by nothing but time and your own imagination. The second goal I urge you to take up is to enjoy yourselves. Now, this one may seem much easier and more straightforward, but in fact, the more we learn about happiness, the clearer it becomes that it's not something you attain by partying or kicking back, as useful as that may be, and as important as that may be a part of your life. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, a psychologist, undertook a decade-long study of the psychology of happiness, and he ended up concluding that one's best and happiest moments occur when a person's mind is stretched to its limit in an effort to accomplish something challenging. In Csikszentmihalyi's words, happiness is what the sailor holding a tight course feels when the wind whips through her hair, when the boat lunges through the waves like a colt. Sails, hull, wind and sea humming a harmony that vibrates in the sailor's veins. It is what a painter feels when the colors on the canvas begin to set up a magnetic tension with each other, and a new thing, a living form, takes shape in front of the astonished creator. You will each find happiness in different things. Perhaps you may feel happiness when the statistics you are running for a psychology or sociology project begin to make sense of the interviews you've been conducting. Perhaps it's something you'll feel when, after a long discussion with a teacher or a classmate, you finally begin to understand what infinity means or what a black hole is. Perhaps it's something you'll feel when you watch kids using a playground your architecture class designed for them, or when you hear someone say the play your drama class put on moved them, or when a young child you've been tutoring gets her first A. I'm not sure what will bring you happiness, but I can say with a great deal of certainty that, like education, it's here, waiting for you to make it happen. So as I said at the start, two imperatives: make yourself an education and make yourself some happiness. you just might find that they go hand in hand. Have a great first year. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Cosse, for your exceptional convocation address. You really illustrate our faculty at its best, especially their commitments to our students and to education in an environment of discovery. I know that you have inspired the entering freshman class of 2000. As this convocation ceremony draws to a close, I want to thank you again on behalf of the University of Washington for being with us. I want to welcome you to our university community, say how especially pleased we are by the outstanding members of the entering freshman class of 2000. Your time at the University of Washington will be as richly rewarding for you and for your families as you make it. I want to acknowledge Mr. Christopher Cook and the University Wind Ensemble that have entertained us during this ceremony. Thank you very much. The University Marshal, Professor Moore, will now close the convocation ceremonies.
The University Alumni Association invites parents, students, and other guests to enjoy complimentary refreshments in the lobbies of Meany and Kane halls. The audience is requested to remain seated until the completion of the recession by the platform party. The 2000 Freshman Convocation of the University of Washington is closed.